Some of you have some soul searching to do. I'm just going to start out this video like that. I don't actually have much Bitcoin content in this video. It's just the way it worked out. But let me just say this again. Some of you need to ask yourselves, who's really your friends in this space and who are really not your friends? Okay, because I'm going to show you two entirely different perspectives from pretty much the same event, and ask yourself who is actually rooting for you and who's rooting against you, or should I say who's rooting for themselves. So let's just get into this. Okay, Watcher Guru, a tweet from Watcher Guru on April 8th, 2025, the day after the bottom. We have this: Justin, world's largest asset manager, BlackRock, says it's increasingly cautious about U.S. stocks. And here we are at a new all-time high in the stock market. Is there a reason, I don't know, why they would say such a thing? Could it be that they want to scare you just a little bit more because they see that the bottom's in and they need just a little bit more liquidity built up so that they can buy at the perfect time? I don't know. We see stuff like this all the time, where Bank of America, Chase Bank, JP Morgan, I mean, that's the same thing as Chase, Goldman Sachs, they will tell you the thing that either feeds into your fear or feeds into your euphoria at a time when you think they're that stupid. I don't think so. I very much don't think so. So we have BlackRock calling for further bottoming at the bottom. And then we have Donald Trump. He literally called the bottom. Here's his tweet. This is a great time to buy, exclamation point, exclamation, exclamation, DJT at the bottom. Huh. Okay. Now that is a weekly chart. These are weekly candles, but we're very, very close to the bottom. And I was thinking about this. Okay, I am a conservative, fiscally conservative, well, also socially in many ways, a conservative man with conservative Christian values. And who would I rather have as president? Donald Trump, who is not a Christian man, and he may, we all know, whatever, not a Christian man, not conservative. I mean, fighting for the conservatives, but I would not say conservative values. Multiple wives and all that stuff, and all the crude stuff that he says. Would you rather have him, or would I rather have had a man like Mike Pence, a man who, in many ways, lives and acts similarly to how I live and act as president? Honestly, it's a no-brainer for me. I'd rather have somebody who's going to fight against the enemy, fight against, or whatever, fight for my values over somebody who has my values and will shy away. I lived in Indiana when Mike Pence was governor of Indiana. And let me tell you something. When it came time for that man to fight, he was an absolute coward. And what does that have to do with this? Okay, I'm going to move on. Trust me, I'm going to move on. But I'm not... I've never been on this side of like Donald Trump is the worst man in the world. And I've absolutely never been on the side of Donald Trump is the best man in the world. But I see a man who I'll take him over BlackRock. How about I'll just leave it at that. I guess that's not saying much. But okay, let's move on. We have, I saw on X a space hosted by some people. Bitcoin has flipped Google. It's now the number 6 asset in the world. Okay, I don't know if this is the first time that Bitcoin has flipped Alphabet, but okay, here we are. So Bitcoin is number 6 top asset by market cap in the world. I wonder if Ethereum's on here. We have the S&P 500 ETF. There's Ethereum, number 39. Okay, so Bitcoin, the number 6 asset in the world. Michael Saylor says that Bitcoin will be the number 1 asset in the world within the next 48 months. I would say that Michael Saylor is insane. So in other words, that it's going to 10x more than 10x in its gold valuation in the next 48 months. Yeah, let's good luck with that. Good luck with that. It's not happening. Get out of here, man. But all right, Bitcoin is the number 6 asset in the world. Will it be number 1 one day? It's possible. It's possible. I'm not going to sit here and declare anything like what Michael Saylor's declaring. But moving on, in today's version of Could It Be So Simple, we have Jacob Canfield, accumulate altcoins at 70% Bitcoin dominance, accumulate Bitcoin at 40% Bitcoin dominance. It's kind of interesting. This has been the case since 2017. Before 2017, it was like 95% Bitcoin dominance, which should make sense, right? Because Bitcoin was one of only a handful of cryptos in existence, and very few of them had established themselves by then. But ever since then, we've been in this range. Be bullish on altcoins. Sorry, be bullish on Bitcoin. More bullish on Bitcoin at the bottom of the range. Be more bullish on altcoins at the top of the range. Could it be? Could it be this simple? I mean, maybe. I have a hard time believing that Bitcoin's dominance is going to get down to 40% from here. But if it does, here's the takeaway from this. If Bitcoin's dominance gets down to 40%, you do not buy altcoins. Quite as simple as that. Don't buy altcoins at that point. But, okay, let's move on. Now we have from Max Price here, Maximilian Price. This guy I love him, and he is the most schizophrenic person on X, and I'm here for it. You got to follow him. He called the top in March of 2024. He called the top again in December of 2024. Now he also did call for a super terrible, depressing bear market with Bitcoin under $10,000 after he called the top in December. But nobody's perfect. And now he's very bullish. And so I'm encouraged by that. But here we go from Max Price. I love how he sees the world. I don't see many people who look at charts the way that he does. And here it is, a hugely important chart. SPX is about to break through a massive resistance that will confirm the blow off top. We will easily see 7K plus on the S&P. I actually agree with that. 7K plus on the S&P. So what are we looking at? We are looking at this, how we should look at it. Let me just say it like that. The S&P 500 over M1 plus M2 money supply. Instead of looking at things priced in just flat US dollars, you'll see me looking at things priced in gold. And if you were to look at a gold chart, SPX priced in gold chart, what you would find is something similar to this, where the peak was the dot-com bubble. And then ever since then, we've just been kind of like, putting in lower highs. But here we are at an inflection point potentially. Now, I'm not talking about from now on, it's just going to be blow off top city for the next decade or something like that. Blow off top city. That's a weird way of saying it. I'm going to move on. But look at this trend line here, And the funny thing about this was a few days ago. This was like 5 days ago from when you're watching this video. And what you would see if you were to see an updated version of this chart is we actually have broken through this trend line. We're peaking above the trend line. And it may be that over the next several months that what we see in the S&P 500 is a hard breakout from this multi-decade trend line. I also shared with you in a short form video, and I shared it on my X account. Let me just go to my X account actually, because this really matters. Give me a second here. This chart from Nebraskan Gooner, I shared it yesterday too, but this is an incredibly bullish candle. This most recent quarterly candle in the S&P 500. And so where do we go from here? We are most likely going much higher. That final irrational pump in the S&P 500, in the NASDAQ, in the Dow Jones, hopefully in the Russell 2000 as well, which means, that lots of risk on going on, lots of your altcoin movement. We'll see. So that's my expectation, though. S&P 500 hit a new all-time high, V-shaped recovery. Makes sense to me. So, biggest rebound ever we see from Zero Hedge. Never before have U.S. stocks posted such a strong rebound. The S&P 500 gained 9% this quarter after falling as much as 14%. You can see it as a little bit of an outlier. We have first quarter of 2016 and then fourth quarter of 1933 as the closest comparison. So my goodness, where do we go from here? Most likely higher. Next, a big reason why we don't price things in dollars. I'm going to give you two big reasons here. The DXY from Donnie Dicey, never heard of him, but here we go. DXY is nuking after 3 years of monster strength post-COVID cycle, the main macro lever between tight and loose global financial conditions. ETH Bitcoin slash alt season, ETH slash Bitcoin alt season is curling up from the dead. Wow. Okay, we have ETH Bitcoin DXY. This is ETH Bitcoin DXY. So DXY below 100 is when historically Ethereum has tended to thrive versus Bitcoin, and the DXY is lower right now. It's dumping. It's lower right now than it has been since 2022. And look at how much, during that period of time when the DXY plummeted below 100, look at how well Ethereum did in comparison to Bitcoin. And then look at this time as well in 2017, as soon as Ethereum got below, as soon as the DXY got below 100, look at how well Ethereum did in comparison to Bitcoin. There are some significant movements in Ethereum. So that's a good sign. I mean, the ETH Bitcoin chart does look bullish. So that's an older chart. So alt season, how soon? Sooner than or not as soon as you would want, I would think, if you're wanting it tomorrow, but soon enough that you should be holding on, not financial advice, holding tight. Another reason to not price things in the dollar, Stack Hodler points out here, the dollar is now down 22% versus the Swiss franc, a little bit more sound money in comparison to the dollar, the Swiss franc. All fiat's a scam, but the Swiss franc is less of a scam, whereas most other fiat currencies around the world are much more of a scam, but the Swiss franc is less of a scam. Okay, the dollar is now down 22% versus the Swiss franc since the COVID money printing bonanza of 2020. And it's down 55% versus the franc since 2000. Wow. U.S. debt to GDP, I've seen this before, 123% in comparison to Swiss debt to GDP, 38%. The U.S. really blew it in the forever wars. I mean, I don't know what to say about that, but here's the chart. Down 22% versus the franc. So I'm tempted. I've never really done Forex, but maybe instead of holding my dollars in dollars, I'll hold it in francs. Is there a way to do that? Is there an easy way to do that? Any Forex people watching this channel, let me know. How can I easily convert my dollars to francs while I'm holding them in dollars, in fiat? Yet another sign, this is a bull market. S&P 500 after 2 months gains of 20% or more, 1950 to current. There are multiple, I'm just going to continually share with you charts like this. I just think it's helpful. When you see all green like this, you should assume more green. So this is from Ryan Dietrich, CMT. I share a lot of his charts, a lot of these particular charts. The S&P 500 gained more than 20% in 2 months off of the obliteration day lows. Nice obliteration day. Super rare to see this, but it is extremely bullish, up more than 30% a year later. No, we don't expect that. I do. But we have been overweight equities all year, and this is one reason we remain there. So historically, 1975, 82, 98, 2009, 2000, worst case scenario has been an 18.6% return over the next 12 months after a 2-month return of 20%. Best case scenario has been 39.7%. I guess I should say I expect it from the bottoms at least. I expect a significant rise in the S&P 500 from that local bottom that we saw on April 7th. So be bullish. I want to be what is right. You should want to end up being, I know that sounds weird. That sounds like duh, but no, really. Okay. I have entirely flipped my bias. I've gotten new information. I've seen new charts. I expected, and I think I had a compelling argument to expect the end of 2025 to be bearish based off of historically what happens with interest rates. And then I saw things play themselves out, and it looked like I was going to be right. How many of you expected a 26% drop in the NASDAQ in 2025? I was one of those people. But then when the market should have, after the bounce back, reversed and went down, it did not. And so then I changed my perspective. I'm not trying to be right. I'm trying to be helpful. And what is helpful for me right now is to tell you that we should expect bullishness to move forward. All right, enough of that. I make no apology. I don't think any of you expect me to make an apology for being wrong about this 3-year working thesis that I've had. What you should expect, what I should say to you instead is you're welcome for being flexible. Interesting chart, interesting to me at least. Biggest monthly drop in Social Security benefits on record. Thank you. So did the Department of Government Efficiency do anything right? Sure. Did they make all that much of a dent? This is good. Okay. No more 120-year-old people collecting Social Security. You're not alive anymore. You died. You're in heaven or hell. I don't believe in purgatory. But you're not getting our money anymore. Our money, the fake money that the government prints. So good. You know what? Let's see more of this. That sounds great. Let's if people are dead, how about they don't receive Social Security? Seems pretty simple to me. I have the reason why I'm sharing this. I have very little hope that when I'm of retirement age that I'm actually going to receive any Social Security, and I know I'm not going to because I don't contribute to it. But if I did, those of you who are in your 40s or younger, at the current rate of how things are going, you're not receiving Social Security. I'm sorry. I remember reading a projection in 2010 that we were going to run out of money in 2041 in that Social Security pool. And then what? Maybe we'll just print more money to oblivion and you guys will actually get yours. But how much is it going to be worth at that time? Something that I found interesting, not that I'm in favor of this, but if you make $176,000 per year, your SS tax is $10,918. If you make $5,176,000 per year, your SS tax is $10,918. Want to save Social Security, remove the cap, and it will be funded for centuries. I found that interesting. Not that I will ever be in favor of raising taxes. I'm a fiscal libertarian. But it seems like there's a simple solution for people who are very much in favor of raising taxes. I know of lots and lots of politicians who are very much in favor of raising taxes. You want to save Social Security, here's what you do. Now, let's delete this part of the video and move on. But something interesting this is the last post here, from a mega bull, Quentin, just permabull. Here's something kind of bearish, All right, that stuck out to me. Every cycle, people scream super cycle. No more bear markets. It's different this time. And my commentary, there's much more of a compelling case to be made that it actually is different this time. But I will not cry at all if it goes the exact same way it's gone in the past. Please, you know what? I took advantage of the previous bear market. I'll take advantage of the next one. But, okay, somehow, every cycle, there's always one over-leveraged player. This is what stuck out to me. There's always one over-leveraged player that blows up and drags the whole market down. Now we've got institutions, even nation states buying, and again, people saying the 4-year cycle is broken. But I wouldn't be surprised if a few years from now, we're saying the same thing. Yeah, it wasn't that different after all, just a thought. So here's his chart. He's pretty lazy with, he takes his chart from other places, but this isn't even what I want to talk about. Number of corporations with Bitcoin holdings continues to accelerate. Cool. But what I do want to point out is these Bitcoin treasury companies. I've seen lots of people talk about this. I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel here. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those or multiple of those collapsed. Even, MicroStrategy is on the table, honestly. I hope not. I don't, whatever. I just wouldn't be surprised. So maybe, and then you guys know my perspective as to what happens after a potential blow off top in the stock market and crypto is so what are we going to see? Something similar to the .com bust? If so, it's going to be painful. And so I would not expect Bitcoin to be able to hold up in that bear market. Status quo remains the same, sure, but there's always stuff. And so interesting perspective here from Mega Bull Quentin. Well, I hope you enjoyed. Hope you're off to a good start to the week. And that kind of ruined my rhythm there, but I'm done with this video, so I'm going to end it now. Have a good one.